According to American University, Pride Month started as a riot against police brutality at a small dive bar in New York City called the Stonewall Inn. At the time, there existed outdated masquerade or cross-dressing laws that suggested a man or a woman must be wearing a certain number of clothing items that matched the gender on their state-issued ID. The police took advantage of these laws to raid drinking establishments and arrest transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. Just after midnight on June 28, 1969, the police raided the Stonewall Inn like they had many times before. Only this time, something unusual happened. Stonewall patrons fought back. It also says that the first Gay Pride Liberation March took place in Manhattan in 1970 to commemorate the one-year anniversary of Stonewall. It took 30 years for Pride Month to become official in a 1999 proclamation from former President Bill Clinton. Since then, two other presidents, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, have issued further declarations, but the battle for LGBTQ plus rights are far from over. Yes, the battle is far from over. Today, as we come together, according to the BBC this week, Southern Baptists, whose faith includes over 12 million members in the U.S., have endorsed a ban to end same-sex marriage in America. The moment marks the first time the group has officially opposed the ruling in Obergefell and Hodges, the 2015 landmark Supreme Court decision that backs same-sex marriage. The vote on Tuesday came during the annual Southern Baptist Convention in Dallas, attended by over 10,000 church representatives. Experts say, I don't think you need an expert for this, that evangelical groups' values have increasingly shifted to align with the Christian right, a branch of conservatism that has gained momentum under U.S. President Donald Trump. It is impossible for me to deliver this sermon today about the fact that we are celebrating pride, that we are celebrating humanity, the dignity, the sacred rights of humans to love who they choose, that we are celebrating the expansion of civil rights and freedoms without broadening the topic. After a week of attacks on immigrants, after the attack in Minnesota, after the attack on and lies about roughing up a United States senator of color, after the unbelievable lies that have led to the politicalization and illegal use of the United States military, I cannot talk about pride and the rights of the LGBTQ community without talking about the fact that we who believe in love and that love is love and support that community are not going anywhere. I often wonder, what do those who oppose the rights of people of color, of those traditionally marginalized by society, of those identifying with LGBTQ community, what do those who oppose all of that believe the end game is? Do they think they're going to control the world? That's been tried and never works out too well. Do they think that they'll keep those with inalienable rights under their thumb? Well, that, again, historically hasn't worked out all that well. Do they think that we will just go away? Well, I think I can speak for many here today and many beyond Oakton, Virginia, when I say we're not going anywhere. The question that I'm honestly worried about, and maybe more now this week than ever, is how rough will it get as we face these issues? I want to be honest about that. I want to be honest that I worry about the safety and the security of those speaking out against these fascist and authoritarian actions. I worry about those whose immigration status is easily used against them. I'm worried about the people I know and love and the people I don't know and love who should be celebrated for who they are and whom they love, not persecuted and prosecuted. This week I had a friend on Facebook say something that resonated with me. They said, "Can we just acknowledge that plowing forward with business as usual in these times is at best denial and at worst actively creating collective trauma?" Are we really out here gaslighting those of us who are wondering why we need to get on a 9 a.m. Zoom call when our people are being kidnapped off the streets, in their homes and at their schools? And we're at a place in our ongoing spiral that we've seen in history and always wondered, why didn't they do something? They went on to say, "I've tried to keep from being alarmist and leading into any trauma activation I am now experiencing. But at what point do we stop censoring ourselves for our reactions to what is a dystopian nightmare?" I have to admit that I have had these same feelings as I go about my normal schedule of meetings, gathering food to eat, and watching the Cubs on TV. I've thought, at what point should we be spending all our days out on the streets, or organizing a national strike, or doing all we can to make sure we're not sliding any further into a dystopian nightmare? This month that we are celebrating this weekend didn't happen because of passivity. This happened because those who were tired of oppression as usual, did something about it. Now, at this point, I want to make sure that you know that I am not saying that I'm condoning violence of any kind. But I'm certainly aware of the oft-repeated Dr. King line that says, "A riot is the language of the unheard." But I want to read you that full quote. It says, "But it's not enough for me to stand before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in society. These conditions are the things that cause individuals to feel that they have no other alternative than to engage in violent rebellions to get attention. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last 12 or 15 years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned with tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity." That's the full quote. And the line that sticks with me most, and certainly challenges my privilege and my comfort. These are difficult and complicated times. And at some point, we all have decisions to make about where our line is and what happens when it's crossed, like it was in Stonewall on June 28th in 1969. Those who are fighting for rights for immigrants in this country, they're not going anywhere. Those who are fighting for rights for those who have struggled for civil rights, we're not going anywhere. Those who are rejoicing in 55 years of pride celebrations, again, not going anywhere. This week we sent out to all of you a video podcast, which we did with Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker, talking about what it means to be communities of resistance. And I would recommend it highly. She's wonderful. Inspired by that, I wrote this and posted it on social media this week. In the past couple of days, I've seen many posts highlighting the hypocrisy of sending troops in on protesters while pardoning true insurrectionists. I certainly get the need to process the continuing elevation of the attacks on democracy and dignity and decency. And I think the point is that they don't care. They don't care about how indecent or dignified or how threatening it is to democracy. But we can't forget. We can't let their constant attacks move the foundation of our sense of our shared lives to fit their narrative. So, transparency is an act of resistance. Kindness is an act of resistance. Connecting is an act of resistance. Grace is an act of resistance. Joy is an act of resistance. Showing up is an act of resistance. Not giving into despair is an act of resistance. Centering love is an act of resistance. Hopefully, peaceful protests are an act of resistance. And not forgetting the holy importance of our common humanity is an act of resistance. We are in difficult and complicated times which will test us all. And we also have more power to resist fascism, authoritarianism, and oppression than we think. And part of that power is in our bold and beautiful and brassy celebration of our beloveds in this community of love, now and for all the years to come. Amen, and may that be so.